Round 4 of the FIA Formula 3000 International Championship comes from the A1 ring in Austria. Hello and welcome to Eurosport's coverage. I'm Ben Edwards, joined this week by Jamie Davis as we look forward to this all-important fourth round of the series. The race that will decide the championship points at this 1/3 distance in the 12-race series. We're in the Styrian Alps in Austria, and the weather conditions, I have to say, much better than they were for qualifying yesterday. It was dry conditions for first qualifying, but it was wet for the second session, and that meant that no one was able to improve on their performance. Great performance from Austria's Patrick Friesacker. And this is Patrick, and he says, hello and welcome to the A1 ring for this fourth round of the championship. This is my home race. I live just 40 minutes away from the circuit, and I hope that you'll support me in my attempts to win the race this weekend. Well, in fact, Patrick was in one of these stunt planes just a few days ago over the A1 ring, and we'll be watching his progress with interest today. Now, before we get into the Formula 3000s, let's take a look at the lineup for the Grand Prix, which will take place on Sunday. Michael Schumacher took pole position in the Ferrari, but Williams in great shape with Montoya second and Ralf Schumacher third. Barrichello couldn't quite cement a fourth place on the grid, but Jarno Trulli next up in the Jordan Honda, just ahead of Nick Heidfeld, sixth fastest in the Sauber. An excellent performance from him and from his teammate just a bit further down, sandwiching the two McLaren Mercedes. So that's a surprise to see David Coulthard seventh, Mika Hakkinen eighth. Olivier Panis is in 10th, ahead of Frentzen in 11th, and the other BAR Honda in 12th place, that of Jacques Villeneuve. He had a couple of offs in his attempts to improve on that time. Eddie Irvine just out-qualified new teammate Pedro de la Rosa in the second Jaguar, 13th and 14th. Enrique Benoldi and Jos Verstappen lining up 15th and 16th in their Arrows. And Luciano Berti has out-qualified John Alesi this time in the Prost. Berti 17th, Fernando Alonso in 18th place, with Giancarlo Fisichella then next up in 19th, Alesi in 20th. Jenson Button still struggling with that Benetton Renault in 21st place, and Tasso Marquez, the final qualifier in his European Minardi, 22nd on the grid. Now Patrick Friesacker saying, well, I want to show you what happened a couple of weeks ago when we raced in Barcelona. I didn't have a great race, he says. I was only 8th and I couldn't get past Mark Webber. But even so, I wasn't too unhappy with the result. So this was Barcelona a couple of weeks ago for round 3 of the championship, and it was an excellent qualifying performance from the Nordic racing team. Justin Wilson took his first ever pole position, and second place was Thomas Enger, his teammate for Nordic Racing, the Czech driver, lining up second on the grid, third for Bas Leinders. Now, at the start of the race, Justin Wilson initially made a good getaway, but then it seemed to go a little bit wrong for him. Jamie, Justin Wilson said something about the gear change not working out right for him. He certainly seemed to have a problem.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, as you saw then, he made a good getaway off the actual lights from the beginning. But I think what the problem was, he went from first gear and went to snick second gear and maybe found a neutral, because there is actually a neutral there. So, you know, that was a big problem for him.
And then, of course, that was him down to third. He got passed by Bas Leinders as well in that first corner. The Belgian moved up into second place. And then, really, from that point on, we saw Darren Manning disappearing off in the background. Darren didn't have a very good getaway and got onto the dirt, which put a lot of rubbish on the tyres, and that's always a problem in Barcelona.
Yeah, it's a big problem there. I mean, basically around that corner, and it's turn 3. It's a long, fast right-hand corner. Basically, if you get to the outside of the corner there and you're onto the Formula 1 rubber, then especially at the beginning of the race, there's really no way back, because all of the cars start rushing up the inside, and once you're out there, you're stuck there, I'm afraid.
Justin Wilson then in third place and really couldn't do an awful lot about getting on terms with Bas Leinders and Thomas Enger. The same problem at Barcelona. You're behind cars, losing downforce, and that's exactly what Justin explained to us.
Sometimes I'd catch him up, and then sometimes he'd pull away, and it's just how it is. You lose the downforce, and probably a lap right up behind somebody really hurts the tyres, and then you need a couple of laps to let the rears cool down. So it's just very difficult to overtake unless you're much quicker. So it's very difficult circumstances.
So that was Justin speaking after the race, a race of frustration to a certain extent for many drivers, not being able to overtake the car in front, even if they could have done faster lap times. Bas Leinders was having his best ever outing to date. The man who won the 1998 German Formula 3 series has struggled a bit in 3000 recently, but really putting in a strong performance. Thomas Enge, though, was the man who took the win in Barcelona. A faultless race driven by the Czech driver. Second career victory in 3000, having won one race during 2000, and he was delighted. It also moved him up to within just 1 point of Justin Wilson in the overall championship.
I'm very happy for that victory. I'm now able, I think, to fight for the championship. The race was very, very hard because after 2 laps the retires went off, but I think it was same for everybody. So I was trying to keep my concentration to don't make any mistake, and that was I was able to stay ahead of Bas Leinders, and I won the race, so I'm very, very happy.
So Thomas Enge, the winner in Barcelona, and as I say, moving to within 1 point of Wilson as a result. Bas Leinders with his best ever result in second. Wilson scoring important points for third. Mario Haberfeld scoring his first ever points in 3000 in fourth, ahead of David Sallins, and another good outing for reigning British Formula 3 champion Antonio Pizzonia. Mark Webber was just outside the points, a result really of an off in qualifying, which meant that he started in 11th place on the grid. For Wilson, that 1 point advantage is what he carries into the next race here in Austria. And they qualified together on the grid once again. So it's going to be a tough battle between the two Nordic racing entries further down the points table. A number of drivers getting their first points in the championship, notably there Mario Haberfeld in 10th position. So Thomas Enge celebrated his victory in Barcelona a couple of weeks ago, and he'll be seeing whether he can do the same, starting from 5th place at the A1 ring here today. Patrick Sellingus will be back after a short break, and we'll be telling you about the latest news, what's going on in the paddock. And the latest news includes the return of Northern Irishman Dino Morelli to Formula 3000. He's racing this weekend, and news about Justin Wilson possibly becoming a test driver for Jaguar. Welcome back to Eurosport's Formula 3000 coverage as we build up to the Austrian race at the A1 ring. And returnee this time is Northern Irishman Dino Morelli.
I've tested for Aston Martin on numerous occasions the past few years. We've always tried to put a deal together. For one reason or another, it's never actually happened. This time we've been able to put everything together, and you know, they're glad to have me here, and I'm very glad to be here. And just hopefully, you know, this is a massive opportunity for me, and I'm just hoping that I can make the most of it.
The Indonesian driver Ananda Mikula has been driving for the team up to this point, but a lack of finance on that side has meant that Dino Morelli now has this opportunity.
It's fairly simple, really. The whole team's driven by the driver's budget. Unfortunately, Ananda's budget was slow or even late coming, so we had to make a change because we couldn't afford to continue like that.
Well, Dino Morelli knows quite a lot about lack of sponsorship too.
I never have the money to be there at the start of the season. I've been in 3000 on and off since '97, but in total I've only done 11 or 12 races. It's just basically I've never been able to find the budget, and in '97 I came in with a team. You know, I signed a management deal with and didn't have to bring any money. And I had enough good results in that year that I've always been able to sort of, you know, if a team runs into trouble, you know, I've managed to put something together to come and drive for them.
Dino sees this as a perfect opportunity.
Well, at the moment, it's for the next two, but I'm hoping to be here for the rest of the year. I need to show reasonably well here, and I need a good result in Monaco. Here is going to be tough because I haven't sat in a racing car for 7 months. So, you know, no testing or nothing.
So it was a bit of a baptism of fire once again, coming back out in this incredibly competitive series. And Dino Morelli qualified in 21st position yesterday. It will take a little time for him to get back up to speed. Now, Justin Wilson's getting quite a lot of attention as the championship leader now with 1 point going into this race. There's talk about him as well, battling his teammate.
Good. We got on very well, and we did a sports car race in the same car and we had to work closely with that. And same as what we do here. We work very closely. We drive a very similar car, so it's quite good. It works out well.
Well, it is a close battle between the two teammates, but here in Austria, there's also rumours about Justin perhaps becoming a test driver for Jaguar.
Not personally, no, not at this stage, but maybe that's a route to chase up, you know, always looking for an opportunity, and Jaguar are a strong team, so we'll have to see.
In the meantime, Justin's teammate, Thomas Enger, confident after that win in Barcelona, feeling pretty confident for this racetrack as well.
Of course, I like this circuit very much because in '96 I won here last race of Formula 4 championship, and I won here the whole championship. So last year in the race I was very fast. I did the fastest lap. So I like the circuit. It's near Czech Republic, and it's on the mountains, which I like a lot. So generally I'm happy here.
So feeling very much at home and on a bit of a roll, having taken the victory last time out. And important to have a good relationship with Justin Wilson. With this just 1 point in the championship, it would be very embarrassing if they were to take each other off.
The relationship with Justin is very good. We are generally all the time out of the circuit, on the circuit, both together. So it's very good.
The two of them, in fact, sharing a GT car at the FIA GT race recently at Magny-Cours, and team boss Chris Moore has to keep control of them.
Obviously, we can't stop them. If they do qualify again in somewhere through the season like they did in Barcelona, we can't stop them racing with one another. All we can do is tell them to be very sensible, not take any chances on maneuvers that might not be clear-cut, you know, no diving up the inside at the last minute and that type of thing. But, you know, we can't stop them racing against one another. There aren't any team orders as far as that goes, but luckily, both being in their third season, they've both got enough experience to where they should know what they can and can't get away with as far as the teammate goes.
Been a great season for Nordic Racing so far. They lead the team standings by 29 points to Supernova's 14 points. They're the two cars on the front at Barcelona, and the two cars have qualified well here in Austria. They will start 4th and 5th on the grid. So we're expecting more things from these two, but which of them will be leading, or perhaps someone else leading the championship by the end of today? It will be an interesting one. Mark Webber, really the only one who could take over the lead from them. Now Patrick says, let's show you some of the highlights from qualifying yesterday. Well, the first 45-minute session got underway in good track conditions. A little bit of cloud overhead, but the track was dry, and we were looking forward to some pretty competitive times. Now, Jamie Davis, Jamie, you've raced on this A1 ring quite a few times in Formula 3000. Interestingly, you raced with this team, the Dams team. Sebastian Bourdais was setting quick times right from the start. They seem to have a pretty good setup on the car.
Yeah, for sure, yeah. I mean, I think we basically learned a big lesson, actually, when I was driving for Dams in '97. We went to the circuit, actually leading the championship at the time, and I think we couldn't even get into the top 20 in qualifying. The car was not working at all. So we went away from the weekend, basically, and had a big rethink on the setup of the car. And basically from then on, every time we've been to the circuit, whether it's with Dams or whoever I've driven for in the later years, we've always been now competitive.
Well, it is a very low grip circuit, and we could see that the drivers were going quicker and quicker. It was completely different to Barcelona, where in Barcelona you went out, they did their quick lap, and that seemed to be it. Here at the A1 ring, people like Bas Leinders and Patrick Friesacker putting in quicker laps every time around.
Yeah, this circuit's, you know, it's incredibly easy actually on the tyres. It's very low grip. You know, in qualifying, you'll actually see the cars probably doing a time sort of 8 laps at a time, just basically to generate the heat into the tyres to get the car working. You know, it makes it very difficult actually in some ways with the qualifying, basically because, you know, you're just out there a long time, and it's very frustrating trying to wait for the car to actually start working.
And of course the problem with that is, as well as some of the drivers mentioned after qualifying, is that they're all going out there, all pounding around, and you run into traffic all the time.
That's right, yeah. I mean, it makes it very difficult to find a clear lap, and obviously it's quite a short lap as well, and there's no real time to make up, you know, that much lap time. So you need a perfectly clear lap, and you know, it makes it incredibly tough.
Well, Sébastien Bourdais was the man on top of the charts for a good deal of that first qualifying session. Very impressive performance from the young Frenchman into his second season of Formula 3000. He did take a pole last year at Manicourt, change of team for 2001, and here he was at 23.270, another improvement that kept Sébastien Bourdais right at the top of the standings. Now, he was being chased by the likes of Bas Leinders and Patrick Friesacker, but it seemed to be, at least in this first qualifying session, that Bourdais had that little bit of an edge. Certainly later on in the session he would be just sitting down in the pit lane waiting to see whether anybody was able to improve on that. A little bit of slow motion action. You can see, have to use the curbs a little bit in a few places here, Jamie.
Yeah, you basically have to put the car completely over the curb. I mean, basically the first corner, the first right-hander after the pit straight, you need to attack that one quite hard.
Well, Bas Leinders was doing a good job. He was doing similar, but he couldn't quite improve on his third fastest time in this session. We spoke to him afterwards. He says, I pushed pretty hard from the beginning. I was often amongst the top few. I was fastest at one time as well. Then I got stuck behind a group, and that's really where there was a difference between me, Bourdais and Friesacker, and I just missed out on the pole by about 1/10 of a second. But maybe next time. So that was Bas Leinders. Another good performance from him, though, considering in Barcelona he finished in second place. Patrick Friesacker, first race for the Austrian on this circuit, surprisingly. He might be a local man, but he's never actually raced here before. And he was fast throughout this first qualifying session. Now, the team, the Red Bull Junior team, run by Dr. Helmut Marko, certainly knows this track very well. They are an Austrian team, so they have plenty of experience of running the cars around this place. And Dr. Helmut Marko, quite impressed with his young man. We spoke to Patrick Friesacker.
I was pushing really hard, and I was always driving 110%, but in my fastest lap I had some mistakes, and I could run faster, I think, but I'm still very happy with the second place, the first row, and everything is open for tomorrow.
So Patrick Friesacker will start second to this man, Sébastien Bourdais. His best time, 23.240. Just the way to go into this fourth round of the championship. Bourdais himself lying in 8th position in the series. We spoke to him afterwards as well. It's great, he said. We've had a contrasting start to the season. A fortunate start in Brazil, then some unlucky races after that. Now I'm going forwards again. Good for me, good for the team. Now we have to stay with good concentration and try and get in a good race, try and get a win under our belts. Three of the front runners in the championship, just behind the top three we were looking at there. Justin Wilson qualified 4th fastest, 1 minute 23.445. So a good effort, but not quite pole position this time.
It went reasonable, not too bad. It could have been much worse in those kind of circumstances. And the first session was dry, and there was always a threat of rain, so we had to push hard.
His teammate, Thomas Eng, winner last time out, finished just a fraction of a second behind Justin, so he will start in 5th place on the grid, at 1 minute 23.566.
Well, in the first session, I've got a little problem with the understeer, but I think everybody has got a problem. And I just didn't put together one really clear, quick lap. And that's why I'm 5th.
One position behind the two Nordic cars then is Mark Webber, the winner of the race in Imola, and he ended up just 0.3 of a second off pole, so he'll start in 6th.
At the beginning, I'm still getting used to driving the Formula 1 because I've been in the Formula 1, the 3000 because I've been in the Formula 1 car. So nobody wants to hear excuses, but it takes a little bit of time to get used to the 3000 again.
Well, Mark had actually been doing 3 days of testing for Benetton in Valencia, so that does certainly mean that he had to readjust his style a little bit. Missed out on the second session, as we'll see in just a moment, and that was how they lined up after that first qualifying session. Darren Manning had an off during that first session as well, so lost any chance to improve towards the end of it. Murray Haberfeld had a battery problem, and that meant he didn't get out for around 15-20 minutes in the first part of the session. The second qualifying session proved to be a little bit of a washout, I'm afraid. The cars went out in the dry initially, but we soon saw the rain falling, and in the Alps here, it doesn't take very long for the weather to change dramatically, and that's exactly what happened. Sébastien Bourdais wasn't too upset about it, however, because he could sit down there in pit lane and wait to see if anyone was able to improve. Now, in fact, the track did get a little bit drier as it went through the session, but it never dried up enough, and Bourdais therefore ended up with pole. He says, well, I think it will be a difficult race. I think any mistakes, you know, and you'll be in trouble. The track is slippery, very little grip, particularly on the outside of corners. The track is dirty, and if you get a little bit wide and pick up dirt on your tyres, it takes 2 or 3 laps again to pick up the rhythm. That makes it hard. You've got to have a good start, of course, as well, and I think I'm going to have to pay a little bit of attention to Patrick Friesacker, starting second. He's on his home track, and he'll want a big result here in front of the crowd, so I'll have to be careful. So Sébastien Bourdais will be starting from pole position. Let's just hear from Patrick, the man who'll be starting alongside him. He says, well, stay with us here live on Eurosport. We'll be right back for the race, and I hope you'll keep your fingers crossed for me. I think it's going to be an exciting one. So coming up after the break, we will have full live coverage of this 4th round of the FIA International Formula 3000 Championship. Will Sébastien Bourdais get away cleanly from that pole position? And what of the young Austrian Friesacker? Stay with us. Welcome back to Eurosport's coverage of round 4 of the FIA International Formula 3000 Championship. I'm Ben Edwards with Jamie Davis, a race winner in Formula 3000. Not racing in the championship this year, but looking forward to racing at Le Mans next month in June. Jamie, it's good weather conditions that we've got for the race this afternoon, a big improvement on what we saw in qualifying yesterday.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you know, the problem with the A1 ring is basically it is up in the mountains, and you can get a tendency for rain to just suddenly appear over the mountain, and it just basically drops a load of water onto the circuit. But this looks quite good at the moment. It does look quite promising. We've seen the Formula 1 qualifying, Michael Schumacher taking pole. Now we're into the 3000s, and Bas Leinders lines up in 3rd place on the grid. Now, qualifying 2nd is this man, Patrick Friesacker. Good job from the young Austrian, who's moved into 3000 this year from the German Formula 3 Championship. And there is the man on pole position. This is Sébastien Bourdais. Let's take a look at the complete lineup and how they're starting here today. Bourdais on pole position, Friesacker in 2nd place, then it's Bas Leinders and Justin Wilson. Thomas Eng starts 5th ahead of Mark Webber in 6th. Antonio Pizzonia in 7th ahead of Fabrizio Golin. Antonio Garcia is 9th on the grid. Giorgio Pantano is 10th place in the Astra Mega entry. 11th place on the grid is Britain's Darren Manning, who had a good result here last year, finished 3rd, just behind Justin Wilson in fact. Andrea Piccini, 12th on the grid ahead of Mario Haberfeld, Jamie Mello. A surprise to see David Salons down in 15th. He was on the front row here last year. Joel Camatias then next up ahead of Riccardo Sparafico, then Rodrigo Sparafico, Nicolas Filiberti, Victor Maslov 20th, Dino Morelli making his return to the series starting 21st. Then we've got Lancieri, Verano, and at the back Derek Hill. So that's how the 24 cars line up for the start of this afternoon's 35-lap race. And Patrick Friesacker here, he's got the pressure on to a certain extent. He is an Austrian racing on home ground, but as we mentioned earlier, he's never raced a single-seater here before, because most of his racing has taken place in first France and then last year in Germany. So it's his first actual race on the track. He did test a Formula 3 car here a few weeks ago just to get a feel for it, but it'll be a different thing rushing up to that first corner. Jamie, you've experience of Formula 3000s on this track. That run up to the first corner is tricky here, isn't it? It is, yeah, because basically it's very, very narrow when you arrive at the first corner. Basically it's down to 2nd gear as well, so it's a lot of braking. You get up to quite a bit of speed off of the start line now, and you know, everybody funnels in, and it's difficult. It's easy to damage the car. Well, let's hope that they do manage to make it through that first corner safely and we don't have too many problems. Frenchman Sébastien Bourdais will lead the 24 cars away on the green flag lap for this 4th round of the FIA Formula 3000 International Championship from the A1 ring near Spielberg in the Styrian Alps, supporting the Austrian Grand Prix this weekend. And this vital stepping stone for young drivers hoping to make their names in Grand Prix racing. Well, this is their next opportunity to show just what they're made of. Britain's Justin Wilson leads the championship, and he starts in 4th place on the grid, just 1 point his advantage over his Nordic racing teammate Thomas Eng.
Watch out also for Mark Webber, who lies third in the championship and starts sixth on the grid. Interesting that we have the top three in the championship there, Jamie, qualified together, but they're not right up front. They're fourth, fifth and sixth, and they're going to have to be careful on that first lap, aren't they?
They are, yeah. I mean, they're going to have to be keeping a watch out, definitely. You know, basically they're after points this weekend. They want to, obviously Justin wants to extend his championship lead, but he's just going to have to be extremely careful on the first lap. Try and get, you know, a secure position and then basically work on it through the race.
Up front, we've got Sébastien Bourdais, who's got some experience. We've got Patrick Friesacker, first year for him, but he did qualify second for the Imola race. Actually made a bit of a bad start and dropped several places there, so he'll be out to make up for that disappointment. And I suppose you've got to watch Friesacker. If he gets half a chance, he's on home ground, he's going to take a bit of a go, isn't he?
I think he'll have a good car for the race, actually. You know, I mean, it's with the old RSM Marco team. They've done a lot of laps around the A1 ring. They know the circuit quite well, so I think they'll have a good race set up. It's going to be interesting to watch.
That team, interestingly enough, the RSM Marco team, now the Red Bull Junior team, took the win with Juan Pablo Montoya back in 1997 at this race. And in fact, Montoya finished second the following year as well. You never had quite the luck here, did you? It didn't quite come together for you.
No, we haven't, no. I mean, as I said earlier, I was leading the championship when we came here in 97, and basically we had a dreadful setup on the car, unable to get any grip because it's such a strange circuit. We went back there again in 98, and I qualified third on the grid originally, but unfortunately there was a muddle up between mine and my teammates' tyres, and the time was disallowed, so not too much success really there.
Well, these things happen, and hopefully one can move on from that. You had a lot of success at some of the other tracks, of course, winning at Enna and having a lot of success at other street tracks. Second at Monaco last year in that one-off drive that you did for Fortec Racing, and as we said, getting ready to race at Le Mans in June. But let's concentrate now on the Formula 3000 contingent as they get all set for the start of this one. And it is crucial to score up the points consistently in this championship. It is so competitive. We look down the timesheets from yesterday's qualifying session, and we can see 12 cars basically covered by 1 second in qualifying yesterday. That's how tight it is, and up front it was only a few hundredths of a second separating the top two. Sébastien Bourdais in the black car, the Frenchman. In the blue car, the Red Bull car, is the Austrian, Patrick Friesacker. Then in the blue and white car will be Bas Leinders lining up third. Watch out for the two red cars, the two Nordic team entries of Justin Wilson and Thomas Enge. Remember, Enge made a great start in Barcelona 2 weeks ago to come through and eventually take the victory. Justin Wilson has taken one win already this year. I wonder if they can make their way through at the start to try and take another victory for Nordic Racing. Here we are then, we're all ready, all set for 35 laps to get underway. The red lights are on, and as they go out, who's it going to be? Good start from Sébastien Bourdais. Bourdais gets away cleanly. His Patrick Friesacker also away well, second fastest. Watch out for Justin Wilson, Thomas Enge that is, in fact up to third. Oh, there's contact. Bourdais goes off into the gravel, and there's more drama behind. Cars up in the air, cars all over the place, into the gravel trap, and I wouldn't be at all surprised to see the safety car coming out at the end of this lap. There are cars everywhere.
Yeah, I mean, basically when they brake for the first corner, you could see that the first couple of cars were braking quite hard, and it caught the people out behind. They basically all funneled up, and I think there was just basically some contact made and off into the gravel.
Well, we see Bas Leinders is actually leading as they get underway properly, but dear oh dear oh dear, we've got cars off Patrick Friesacker, who qualified second there. He's in the gravel, as is the man that was on pole position. He went right out wide as well, Sébastien Bourdais. So disaster for those guys. Riccardo Sparafico was one of those cars there. We've got the yellow flags, the safety car will be out. Bas Leinders has got them all slowed down. Now I think it is Justin Wilson in second place. I thought it might have been Enge, but it was Wilson who moved up into second, so he did well. Got a good start this time, unlike in Barcelona. Made a good getaway, and with a couple of cars going off ahead of him, that's put Justin up into second place.
Yeah, I mean, Justin noticed that they were braking early and hard, and just in front of him he managed to get to the inside and basically protect the car, protect his wings, and find himself now in second place.
Look at that, that's both of the Red Bull cars are off at that first corner. That's the other one, that's Antonio Garcia, Helmut Marko, former Grand Prix driver himself, and fairly authoritative figure. Will not be too impressed with his two drivers.
I'd imagine he's completely gutted with that. I mean, that's just not what he wanted for the beginning of the race.
terrible news for him then, and the safety car out there. It's not the first time we've seen the safety car this year in Formula 3000, of course, but always a possibility, I'm afraid. At the A1 ring, you can see the cars littered over the gravel trap up there, and there's the safety car just picking up the leaders. Not allowed to overtake, of course, now. They slow it all down and just wait for the track to be cleared. Now, up into third place has come Brazilian Antonio Pizzonia. Good start for him. Now, where is Mark Webber? That's one question. I think Webber actually ended up in the gravel, you know, because he's being shown as 18th as they came around last time. We'll have to check on that to see whether he did survive. Webber started in 6th position, but I'm not too sure that he didn't end up in that gravel trap. You know, there is the man who was on pole, into the pits and being looked after by the Dams team. But terrible news for Sébastien Bourdais, and that opportunity. Now, let's take another look at this start, Jamie. He gets away well. In fact, both front row men get away well, don't they?
They do, yeah. I mean, it could have been that they were just basically being too cautious as they were going into the first corner, trying not to touch each other, and slowed the cars down too much, and then that caused trouble behind.
Blinding getaway by Justin Wilson, I think that was, although he was ahead of Leinders. Let's see what happens here. Two front row, look at that, Friesacker it was who lost it, went off, and it was Enge, I see, it was Thomas Enge who had moved up. He'd made the great start, but he went onto the gravel as well, and then there's cars just all over the place.
Yeah, basically it looked like that Friesacker, he locked up the back wheels as he braked in going into the corner, possibly as he was changing down to get the second gear. Just snatched the back wheels and they locked up, and it pushed the car into a spin.
Yeah, they were side by side here. Round it goes. Now look behind. Let's see. Oh, there's cars just being hit everywhere. I'm sure Webber was in the middle of that. I think he got tagged from behind actually by somebody else there, and that's paid to his attempts to score some points this afternoon. There was somebody stuck on the grid as well. I don't know who that was. Somebody didn't get away at all. They had the yellows out and everybody did a good job. That's one of the European Minardi cars. It was either Pacini or Salons, and I'm not sure which one that was. And then up to the first corner, off they went. Friesacker spins, hits, but there's separate contact there actually. That was Garcia being hit by somebody. Then Haberfeld goes over the top. Webber there, I think, on the left-hand side of the shot. Oh dear, it was just chaos. I'm not quite sure who hit Antonio Garcia there. Garcia had made a good start, actually, because he'd qualified 9th and was right up in that lead group. Somebody gave him a big clout, didn't they, from behind? Webber was well back, actually. Webber was way down already at that point. He was over on the right-hand side of the track, and then just nowhere to go. He couldn't turn in. There were cars in the way.
That's right. It looked to me actually as well at the beginning that Sébastien Bourdais, he squeezed Friesacker a little bit as they were coming up to the corner and pushed Friesacker right to the very inside, which was on all of the dirty dust. And I think that picked up some dirt onto the tyres, which then lost the grip as he turned into the corner.
Now here's Webber to the left. That's Haberfeld taking a flying lesson there. And I don't know why Webber was so far back. He'd had a very slow getaway there. But Webber wasn't actually... He just couldn't turn right there. He just simply couldn't turn right because there were too many cars in the way.
Yeah, he was just totally blocked in, nowhere to go. Very difficult in that situation. I mean, sometimes you're lucky, other times you're not, and unfortunately he was unlucky then.
Yeah, very unlucky. So that's, well, so many cars off. Haberfeld not having a good time of it at all. He had problems in qualifying. That's Pantano coming through the gravel. I think he or the rear wing was damaged by the looks of it, but he came back out again. And the Red Bull team just can't believe it. Two laps have been completed at the A1 ring, but most of it has been behind the safety car. A first corner accident taking out a number of cars, and that leaves Bas Leinders, the Belgian, leading this from Britain's Justin Wilson, the championship leader. He is there in 2nd place. Now, Justin had a great race here last year, qualified 11th and finished 2nd, proving that you can overtake on this track. There were other cars, some cars went off, but he made some good passes as well. And as you could see, he was just trying to keep a bit of heat in the tyres as they looked forward towards a restart. Still a bit of clearing up going on at the first corner, but Justin will feel very happy about this position.
Oh yeah, that's exactly where he wants to be now. You know, he's looking in good shape now for the race. That's one good thing about this circuit, is the fact that you can overtake. It's leading onto the pit straight is a relatively slow corner, so you're able to get reasonably close to the car in front and maybe make a move up into turn 1, or if not, you can possibly drop back and get a run through turn 1 and then tow them down the back straight there, and go out the inside into the next hairpin.
Well, the Eurosport sticker on the back of Sébastien Bourdais' car, but I'm afraid that car's not going any further after the first corner accident. There is Sébastien explaining it to the team. Oh, what disappointment. You could see he's doing the body language. That was Friesacher getting sideways, I think, the body language there. Another view of it, some great camera angles on the view of this first corner accident. Seem to have a number of different shots. Haberfeld taking off. I can't quite see who the other one who went up in the air was. It might have been Bas Linder's teammate, quite possibly, who also went for a little flying lesson, Joel Camatius, but the other KTR entry, who started down in 16th place. I think it may well have been the Swiss driver who also went up in the air. I don't think anyone will have been hurt in that accident. It was fairly slow speed, wasn't it, by the time they all got there?
It was fairly slow speed, yeah, but still a lot of damage to the car, so there's going to be some sick teams out there for sure. Team managers aren't going to be very happy.
Now, here we go. The safety car is in. We're ready for the restart. Linders leads them out off that last corner, but I have to say, Justin Wilson looked to have a slightly better exit. Now let's see whether the Brit can do anything against the Belgian. It's Bas Linders who leads. Wilson looking for the way past on this approach to the first corner. Pitsonia trying to come up the inside as well in third place. Then it's Thomas Enger, David Salans and Victor Maslov, would you believe it, in sixth place. And now look, side by side again as they approach the Remus curve, the slowest corner on the track. Wilson now to the outside, trying to go around the outside of Linders, gets it crossed up, doesn't quite make it. Pitsonia stays in third, and Wilson trying to get past, but he has to be careful. He's got to protect that points lead, but he's got ahead. He has got ahead on the exit.
Yeah, you could see Wilson, basically, he worked that manoeuvre right from the pit straight. He went to the left-hand side going into turn one, managed to get a run on the guy then down to the back straight. Then he was still working him again then into the second hairpin. He went to the left-hand side again, and then I think basically he's passed him on the exit.
Great move from Justin Wilson. Good racing. He's proved his abilities to overtake at this level before. In the past, his weakness has been qualifying, but this year he seems to have got that sorted. Qualifying on the second row this time. And Wilson, the winner of the first race in Brazil, is now in charge again here in Austria. Fantastic performance. Bas Linders in second, and Wilson's teammate Thomas Enger in third. Look at Dino Morelli here. That's Morelli making up one position, getting past Victor Maslov, who's actually dropped a couple of places on that last lap. But Morelli, you know, on his return to Formula 3000, having survived the first corner, he might even get in the points here today. He's currently in 7th place.
Yeah, he's doing a good job. You know, for sure, it's not easy when you're jumping back into the Formula 3000 cars after a long time off. I mean, I had that myself last year with the Fortet team. He's doing a great job. It's great for, obviously, the English and supporters for him.
That's right. Of course, the other Brit, Darren Manning, I'm afraid, not in such good shape. He did get involved in that original first corner accident, I think. And so Darren Manning not playing any further parts in this now.
No, I mean, you know, that's obviously not very good for him. He's very disappointed about that.
Look at this battle for second hotting up nicely. We've got Bas Linders now coming under increasing pressure from Thomas Enger. Enger will be anxious to get past him as fast as possible and go chasing his teammate, Justin Wilson, but for the moment Linders is in second place, Enger third, Pitsonia fourth, David Salans in 5th place. Now this is ironic, David Salans qualified 15th for this race. Last year he was on the front row, he crept at the start, led the race initially, and then had a penalty, so he then was dropped way out of it, of course, had to come into the pits, and now Salans finds himself having qualified 15th with a possible points scoring position here. There he is in the black car. That is the Belgian David Salans, although he's coming under quite a lot of pressure from Brazilian Jamie Mello. Coming out to complete another lap. Wilson has definitely pulled away a little bit, hasn't he, from Bas Linders?
Yeah, I think that Justin he's working quite hard on these first few laps, just trying to make a gap now to Linders. You know, if he can make a gap early on, then he can start to relax a little bit more later in the race, and that's obviously what he's trying to do.
Now, Jamie, with the track being a fairly low grip surface, presumably you're not going to get into too much trouble with overheating the tyres early on.
No, I mean, this circuit is kinder on the tyres, but to be honest, at the end of this race, you still tend to start losing the rear tyres on the car. You pick up less traction, you get more wheel spin coming out of the tight hairpin. So you've still got to be careful, but perhaps not so careful as other circuits.
Well, Justin certainly doing the job right at the moment. Slowing down there. Was that Morelli who was slowing down? Let's take another look. or in fact, no, sorry, closing up a bit on these two. That's not slowing down. He's closing up a little bit on this battle for 5th position. There's David Salons in the car number 7, the black car. Then Jamie Mello in the blue car. And Dino Morelli has caught these two. So very much in with a chance of scoring some points here today. The scoring is the same as Formula 1. The top 6 scoring points, 10 points to the winner, 6 points to second, etc. Down to 1 point for 6th. 6th place at the moment belongs to Jamie Mello, the blue car in Sandwich here, but Dino Morelli from Northern Ireland making his return to 3,000 is right with them, and he is a racer, isn't he, Jamie? He's going to love and relish this opportunity.
Oh yeah, because he's hungry as well. He hasn't been in the car for a while, so he's out there to prove a point. You know, those three are having a good race at the moment. I think actually David's holding them up a little bit at the moment. Dino's just sat there. He's trying to get on the tail. To try and get onto the little group there. Hopefully if he can get a little bit closer, he might be able to make a move.
Viktor Maslov is the car behind them in 8th place, the Russian driver. No doubt excited about the news of a possible Russian Grand Prix in a year or two's time. Here comes Jamie Mello. Mello on the outside of David Salons, and they're into that Remus hairpin, trying to do what Justin Wilson did, but has he got the exit better than Salons? I'm not sure it's good enough.
No, it makes it difficult there. I think David tried to slow the car down on the apex to stop Mello coming back on the inside, but it looks like he has done it actually.
Yeah, he's done it. Look, he's got ahead, and now Salons trying to come back on the dirty stuff down the inside, and Morelli can take advantage, but no, he can't. Very nearly there. Dino was able to slip inside. They were on the dirty stuff. You could see all the muck coming up, and much less grip down on the inside there, and Dino could almost take advantage.
Yeah, I think if Dino now stays, basically, this is going to be tough just staying close through those two next corners, because they're high-speed corners, and you get a lot of understeer when you're following the car in front, but if he can stay onto the pit straight there, he may be able to work a move.
Quick replay there. That was Salons just locking up into the Remus hairpin, where on exit Mello was able to get past him. Here we go. And look, Salons has dropped back now behind Maslov. So Morelli's up to 6th. Dino Morelli up into the points already, and that's starting from 21st. And whilst there might have been a degree of luck there, because so many cars took each other off at the first corner, he's still doing the job, and he's still getting past people. And that's good news for him, having been out of a car for a long time. He's now chasing after the Brazilian Jamie Mello. Viktor Maslov is ahead of Salons. So Salons, as you said there, obviously got that dirt on his tyres. Morelli had a chance, and there wasn't a lot he could do about it. So coming around, Wilson is our race leader. Pizzonia still running well in 4th place. Then there's this gap back to 5th place Jamie Mello, 6th place for Dino Morelli. And the Astromega team will be delighted with this so far. Of course, they lost their other car in that first corner accident, Giorgio Pantano, but Dino Morelli is doing the job for them in the second car. And there's Viktor Maslov looking back at David Salons. Salons coming under increasing pressure again from a number of other cars. Drama at Austria then on the A1 ring, as Justin Wilson is our race leader after 8 laps have been completed. Wilson leads from Bas Leinders in 2nd place. We're looking at the battles all the way through. There's Antonio Pizzonia going through the picture. He's running well. He's been up there all through this race so far in 4th position. 5th for Jamie Mello, 6th for the yellow car, Dino Morelli. As we're looking there at Andrea Piccini, teammate to David Salons, who is trying to get himself sorted. There is Patrick Friesacker, the man who qualified 2nd and unfortunately went off at the first corner. As they all charged up into the first corner, he got on the dirt on the inside, got sideways, took off Sebastian Bourdais with him, and a whole bunch of other cars also ended up in that first corner gravel trap. Now, Jamie, look at this, interesting. Justin Wilson initially made a bit of a break, but now Bas Leinders got back to him again. Yeah,
it looks like he's managed to close the gap. I don't think there's been any yellow flags out at all, so Justin's not backed off for that, so it just looks like maybe that Leinders has got a little bit more pace at this stage of the race now, so we'll just keep an eye on that and see what happens.
Gabriele Lancieri there in the battle. That is for 10th position with Nicholas Filiberti. And some side-by-side action going on. The two European Minardi teammates here, look, having quite a decent run at it. Piccini and Salons, and behind them as well, Lancieri has got past Filiberti this time. And diving down the inside, I think that's Fabrizio Golin who's gone through. So these guys are all having fun and games. It just shows that overtaking is possible here, isn't it?
Oh, this circuit's great for overtaking. You know, again, as I said before, it's got straights leading, slow corners leading onto the straight, so you're able to get close to the cars, and if you time it right and get onto the power sooner, you're able to tow past them and make a move. So it's great racing for the drivers and also good for the spectators.
Makes a good change to Barcelona in some ways. A very demanding track, Barcelona, and a great track to drive from the driver's point of view. A lot of satisfaction in Barcelona, but of course it's not great for actually getting past people.
No, it's very difficult at Barcelona, obviously, because it's got a lot of high-speed corners. It's quite bumpy as well, and it just makes it almost impossible to get close to the car in front because of the modern-day aerodynamics on the car. So that just makes it difficult for the drivers, and it just makes it normally a boring race.
Well, this is certainly not a boring race at the moment. We saw all the action into the first corner. Now we're seeing Britain's Justin Wilson leading, an opportunity to extend his championship lead, and some great side-by-side battles going on towards the back of the field as well, as we keep an eye on this little group of cars. That's Nicholas Filiberti, who's in car number 11 there, he's involved in this battle with Golan, and in fact it's not Golan, it's Rodrigo Sparafico, the other of the Coloni Motorsport cars. That's Rodrigo Sparafico there in the number 20 car, and he is twin brother of Ricardo, and I think Ricardo was actually involved in the first corner accident, so he's not really playing a part in it. And they're all side by side halfway around the track, those guys, as up front is still Justin Wilson. There is Wilson, there's Bas Leinders, who finished second in Barcelona. These two both on the podium last time out, but it's the other way around. Well, the three cars up front were on the podium last time out, but a different order, because Thomas Enger still there in third. He won in Barcelona, and so far Justin Wilson's just about keeping it under control, but boy, he can't afford to make a mistake, can he?
Not at all, no. You know, Bas is that he's close enough to make a move if Justin makes any mistakes anywhere. So Justin's going to be concentrating to try and keep the car on the road, obviously, and just keep pushing as hard as he can. But it's going to be an interesting race to see how it develops with the tyre situation as well, because this circuit is very technical on the setup of the car. It's very difficult to get the actual grip out of the circuit to get the car to work. So it makes a difference on what setups the drivers are using, if they're going to be quick earlier on in the race or possibly later on in the race.
Well, it certainly seemed that Justin had the advantage in the early laps and was able to get past Leinders and then pull away, but now perhaps the advantage swinging back to the Team KTR entry of Leinders, as he has closed up that gap, and Enger, who seemed to be closing up initially on the two of them, he's now dropped back a touch. So perhaps the Nordic setup was slightly better suited to the start of the race. Maybe it's gone away slightly now, but you never know, it might come back again, mightn't it?
You never know, no. I mean, you know, it's always difficult to guess what the other team's going to be doing. So you know, they're just basically doing their race. They're working to their program. Justin's at the moment, he's obviously got it all under control, and he's just hoping that he can keep in front.
Pitsonia doing a fine job in fourth place at the moment, a little bit on his own in the Petrobras entry. Jamie Mello is in fifth position. And then Dino Morelli, here he is in sixth place, up into the points on his return. The 27-year-old from Northern Ireland, who last contested Formula 3000 races some years ago now. He's had a couple of horrible accidents actually in 3000. The last one coming at the Nürburgring in 1997, when he hit the back of Gareth Rees's car. Gareth was slowing down, had a mechanical problem. Dino couldn't see him in the spray. It was very wet that day. Oh, we're just looking here, a little replay. Victor Maslov, that was, coming under pressure from David Salons. But Dino had... oh, and Maslov, look at this. Just check this out for a moment. Right onto the grass there, a little bit too wide on the exit of the Power Horse curve and through the right-hander. Shortcutting it, but I'm afraid it didn't do him any favours, so he rejoins. That accident that Dino had in 97, of course you were there, Jamie, you were racing that day, really was a horrible situation, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was not nice at all. You know, basically it was along the pit straight, and I think that Dino was basically just completely full throttle racing, and Gareth had slowed down for a problem or something, I think, and Dino just unsighted Gareth, went up the back of the car, but it wiped the whole front of the car off, and from what I gather as well, it jammed the throttle on full throttle, and it just kept it on full speed down the straight, so it was a nasty accident.
Made a nasty mess of his legs as well, but Dino very bravely getting back into the car before people expected him to, and still pushing hard to have an opportunity to race at this level again. And while he's been working for the family firm back home in Northern Ireland recently, but then got the call from Sam Boyle, the boss of the Astromega team, got some funds together, and here he is racing, and he's up in the points already. Amazing how sometimes these things work out. Meanwhile, we're back with our race leaders here. Watch Justin Wilson doing a good job of keeping Bas Leinders behind him, but Linders is looking hungry for his first ever victory in 3000. Plenty to play for here. We'll be right back with more on Eurosport after the break. Welcome back to Eurosport's live coverage of the fourth round of the Formula 3000 series, coming from the A1 ring in Austria. Britain's Justin Wilson is race leader in the red car there, but being chased by Belgium's Bas Linders. These two a little ahead of the Czech driver Thomas Enger, who won last time out in Barcelona. Fourth place at the moment for the Brazilian Antonio Pizzonia, winner of last year's British Formula 3 Championship. Look at Linders, just getting that little bit closer once again to Wilson. And as this race progresses, there's no doubt that Bas Linders is increasing the pressure, if anything, on Justin Wilson. 15 laps have been completed out of 35, so we're just under half distance at the moment. And Linders is filling Justin's mirrors, isn't he, Jamie?
Linders is looking very threatening at the moment. I'd imagine Justin's looking at the mirrors quite a lot, just to see where he is, just to keep check. But as long as he keeps a level head and makes sure he gets clean exits out of the corners, it's going to be difficult for Linders to get by.
Some slow motion action of Justin Wilson keeping Linders behind him at the moment. And you see the car working hard, using a little bit of curb, and just running over the curve. This is on the exit of the Castrol curve, up the hill there. It's quite a steep hill, that one, isn't it?
It is, yeah. It's amazing how late you can brake into that corner. I mean, if you're riding a pit bike, like you do on the couple of days before the actual event, the actual pit bike normally struggles to go up the hill. It's incredibly steep, which isn't shown really on the TV.
Let's just take a look a bit at the track here, Jamie. We're coming across start-finish line, heading up towards the corner you're talking about with the steep hill. So, which gear are they going through this one in?
Well, this one in the race probably in second gear. In qualifying trim, I can normally get away with using third gear through there because you've got that little bit more grip on the tyres, which are able to carry the speed. And as they're coming down now into Remus, you can brake really late into this corner, just past the 100-metre board. It's down. First gear will probably be in the race. You've got to be careful with the wheel spin on the exit of the corner because you can cook the tyres there.
No traction control in 3000, is there?
No, you've got to use throttle control, unfortunately, but makes it more exciting anyway. This is braking now, back down again into second gear for Gosner. Again, you can brake quite late into this one. When you turn into the corner, just use a bit of the curbing, get on the power really soon. He's corner now, the left-hander here, Niki Lauda corner, it's quite quick actually. It drops away as you're exiting the corner there, which tends to make the car kind of either oversteer or understeer depending on what the characteristic is at the time, but it makes it more exaggerated. As you can see, I'm coming into Joachim Rindt corner. This corner here is another high-speed corner. It's just literally bang it down from fifth to fourth and chuck it into the corner and get on the power as soon as you can, really. And then coming back onto the pit straight again, the last corner is quite a critical corner on the circuit. Every single time you go through the corner, you always feel that you can go faster. It's basically because the corner drops away as you turn in, and then when you get to the apex, the circuit levels out and actually holds you in and gives you the grip you need.
Well, we've certainly seen a few cars finding a lack of grip there in the wet yesterday in second qualifying. One or two were flying across into the gravel trap, but in the dry, it's, as you say, making the use of that, the topography and the way it levels out. Looking here at Dino Morelli now, interestingly, Andrea Piccini, that is, behind him, the other of the European Minardi team entries. David Salins has dropped further back. Piccini really putting Morelli under some pressure, isn't he?
Yeah, I mean, it may be that the European car, they've got a slightly different setup than what the other teams possibly are using, that their car may be coming in, getting quicker and quicker later on, so we may see him moving forwards through the pack.
22-year-old Italian, Piccini, whose best result so far this year, an 11th place finish in Brazil, and a possibility here of getting into the points. Dino in 6th place at the moment, 1 point on offer for that spot. And after that initial charge, he's now having to watch his mirrors very, very closely indeed.
Yeah, I mean, Dino, you know, he's driving a great race. I mean, you know, it's really good to see him back in the car again. You know, he's in 6th position at the moment, which is scoring a point. So, obviously, he would love to get back in straight away and finish in that points position. But at the moment, he is under pressure. You know, he just needs to keep a level head and keep up the speed and just try and hold that place.
Well, we'll see what sort of progress he makes. Another Brit who's not here this weekend, I'm afraid, is Justin Keane, and the KJR Monaco team looks like they won't be entering any more 3000 races this year, sadly, so that is disappointing. And it's always difficult at this level to find the sort of budget required to go racing. If you're talking about something like £800,000 for a season of Formula 3000 at the moment, Jamie?
Yeah, it's getting up around that way now. I mean, you know, that is, especially I think for British drivers as well, it's just incredibly tough to try and find the budgets for the season. One of the reasons apparently why I'm not driving it this year.
Well, we can understand that. It's an awful lot of money to find. Of course, most of these drivers having to find that money or bring sponsorship to the team. Not always the case. One or two lucky drivers perhaps get an opportunity where a sponsor is bringing the money in and the teams can select their drivers, but it doesn't happen very often, does it?
No, it just makes it very, very tough, you know, but that's part of the game. You have to live with that and try and do the best job you can.
Justin Wilson's doing the best job he can. Look at him right up front here, leading this race, but under consistent pressure from Bas Linders. Not a wheel wrong so far from Wilson, but he's got to carry it on for another half the race. We've just over half distance, 18 laps completed, and now Justin has to do it all over again to stay in front of Linders to look for his second win of the season. Across the line this time to complete 19 laps then. Justin Wilson, race leader over Bas Linders in round 4 of the Formula 3000. Oh, Justin gets very crossed up through the Castrol curve. This could be an opportunity now for Linders. That will have lost him exit speed. Now, watch Linders. He'll have seen that. Looking now to get the draft. Pick up a bit of a slipstream. Moves to the outside. This is where Wilson managed to get past. Oh, and Linders gets a bit crossed up under braking. I'm not sure he's going to get the exit that he needs.
Yeah, I mean, Justin had to be quite clever then, basically. He knew he'd messed up on the exit of the corner, so you saw him protect the inside straight away down to Remus corner. But he was then just slowed the car down at the apex so that Linders was unable to repass him.
Yeah, that was good stuff. As you say, he didn't take the corner as fast as he could. Linders still all over him. He's never surely going to go around the outside into the Niki Lauda curve. Not much space to do it there, but he's just harrying Wilson. He's seen Wilson make one mistake, and that gives you confidence, doesn't it? When you're chasing, Jamie, you're behind someone. If they've just done that, you think, right, now, I really have got a chance
here. Sure, I mean, that's exactly what Linders was waiting for, you know. He was in no hurry. He knows he's got half the race left to make a move on Justin. He knows he's able to keep pace with him. So he's just keeping the pressure there, keep moving the car around so it shows into Justin's mirrors, and basically wait for him to make a mistake.
And this was another replay. This is where Linders tried a little look at the outside. Wilson had to be a little careful, a bit slippery down on the inside, but again, he kept his head, didn't make a mistake. And so far, he's staying cool, calm and collected. Well, enough anyway to stay in front. This has allowed Thomas Enger to close up a little bit, hasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, Thomas, if he can just move up just slightly further, you know, he'll join the bandwagon, he'll be able to get into the toe there, and it'll be a three-horse race.
And into Remus once again. This time Linders not fast enough to be alongside. Back on the power as they accelerate up the hill. In the Formula 1 cars, that's where the traction control is doing all the hard work, but here the drivers have to use their right foot sensitively as they get back on the power and climb up the hill. Again, Wilson has to cover the inside. Linders quick there, isn't he?
Yeah, Linders has sensed, you know, that he's rattled Justin a little bit, and I think these next couple of laps he's just making full opportunity, you know, to make sure he puts as much pressure on Justin as he can.
Linders has had a couple of tough seasons in Formula 3000, really without any results to talk about, and finally, after that, getting that second place last time out in Barcelona, you can almost see the increased confidence, can't you, in the way he's driving. At this level, confidence is so crucial.
It's important, you know, obviously, to be in there. We've got a bit of drama happening here.
Yeah, Victor Maslov, that was. It's not Wilson, it's Victor Maslov in the Team Arden Russia entry. Losing a couple of spots by the looks of things, but let's just work our way back to the leaders again. The top three are much closer together than they were. 20 laps completed now, and it's still Wilson from Linders, but Thomas Enger is right in on the battle here. What a great three-way fight we've got up front. Pietzonia is some 5 seconds back in 4th place. This was Victor Maslov being passed just a second ago by Rodrigo Sparafico. Sparafico getting down the inside, and Filiberti also able to go through. So that's 2 places lost by the Russian, but he's still fighting. But back with the top 3. This is what we're concentrating on. Justin Wilson's attempts to keep Bas Linders in 2nd place and Thomas Enger in 3rd position. Linders, the German Formula 3 champion of a few years ago, back in 1998. In fact, won the British Formula 4 championship back in 1995, did Bas, and won it from Kevin McGarrity some years ago now. But in 3000, he had a season with this team in 99, got 1 point that year, Last year raced for Kid Jensen Racing, didn't score any points, had a best of a 7th place in Hungary, and now back with Team KTR, things definitely coming together for Leinders.
Yeah, you know, he feels more comfortable, obviously, with this team, and it's bringing the maximum performance out of him. Just going back to looking at how this is working at the moment, Justin's lap times seem like they're moving up and down a little bit, so I think possibly he's been a little bit too cautious in perhaps blocking occasionally when he shouldn't be, and this is obviously allowing Enger to get closer, and it's making it basically more tougher for him.
Well, just this last lap or so, look, he's managed to pull it away a bit again. Look, 25.048 on that last lap, so Wilson a tenth of a second faster than the two behind him, who did exactly the same lap time.
Yeah, I mean, that's exactly what I was saying. I mean, just a minute ago when I looked at the lap times, it was a 25.7 or something like that, so he's just picked up the pace again now, and I think that's what he needs to do. He needs to just try and break away again now.
Always the danger in this situation is you end up driving on your mirrors rather than looking ahead and thinking ahead and trying to pull away. You're so busy focusing on your mirrors, it slows you down. Perhaps that happened a little bit for Justin. Maybe now he's trying to concentrate on going forwards. Wilson is race leader, 22 out of 35 laps completed. We'll be back with more from the A1 ring. Welcome back to live coverage from the A1 ring in Austria. It's still Justin Wilson by a hair's breadth from Bas Leinders in second and Thomas Enger in third. The championship leader is out in front here. He's driven superbly so far, but there's still 12 laps to go in this race, and Leinders looking so hungry for his first ever Formula 3000 victory. Now, let me just tell you in the meantime that Dino Morelli has been pushed back to 7th by Andrea Piccini. Piccini, driving for the European Minardi team, has moved up into 6th place, so Morelli now just outside the points, but we'll wait to see whether that changes over the next few laps. Piccini has got 4 seconds to make up on the next man on the road, but he is going quickly. Piccini was the fastest man on the circuit last time around.
Yeah, it's exactly like I said earlier. I think that you know, they're using a slightly different setup to what some of the other teams are using maybe around this place, and their car is coming in later.
Now, this happened just a moment ago while we were away on commercial. Leinders did get down the inside of Wilson at that Remus curve, but he carried too much speed in, and Wilson was able to get back past again.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you know, he had a big problem then trying to stop the car. He made the move, couldn't stop the car, and Justin just used his head, dropped back a little bit, made sure that he got into the corner well, and then got onto the power and was able to repass on the exit.
And of course that almost gave Thomas Enger a chance to get through, but as it turned out, they all stay in the same place, and still the top 3 positions are the same, and the lap times are changing again.
Yeah, I mean, Justin's just put in the quick time then. He's just gone round in the 1 minute 24.7, so obviously he's up to pace again now. I mean, I think it's swings and roundabouts at the moment. They're holding each other up a little bit and all trying to protect their positions.
Yeah, it's good stuff though, isn't it? Pizzonia still in 4th place, a little bit off this battle. Can't quite seem to lap at the same pace, nearly there, but just about a 1/10 of a second slower or so. And Justin Wilson in control, from Bas Leinders in 2nd place, Thomas Enger in 3rd. Then it's Pizzonia 4th, Jamie Mello in 5th, and Andrea Piccini in 6th.
Yeah, Pizzonia has just actually put in a 24.6 there. He's just fractionally quicker than the leaders, so, you know, if he keeps chipping away like that, you know, there's possibility that he could be there right at the end.
That's interesting that, yes, a little like you said, earlier laps he wasn't quite, a few laps ago he wasn't doing particularly quick times. Now, suddenly Pizzonia putting together some quick laps, so perhaps that Petrobras car set up for latter part of the race. And just looking at Enger's car though, the right mirror looks like it's about to fall off. Not that he's got to worry about it too much because he hasn't got anyone right behind him, but it does look as though the right-hand side, as the driver looks at it, that is, looking at the left-hand side as we look at it, the mirror dangling at a rather strange angle. But for the moment, that won't really affect Thomas. It's only if Pizzonia can put together a few more quick laps and get close, then he might have an opportunity of getting down the blind side, as it were. Back up towards Remus again, hard on the brakes, down to 1st gear, really slowing the car down, only doing about just over 40 miles an hour at the apex, but then they're hard on the power, and it doesn't take long before they're back up to about 155 miles an hour on the approach to the Gösse curve, the next right-hander, and then changing down once again here, fairly heavy braking, Linders not trying to overtake there, but just sort of putting himself in the mirrors of Wilson.
Yeah, I think Linders is actually using a slightly different line. It looks to me like he's just turning in a little bit earlier. Actually, I feel personally there's normally more grip actually doing it that way. Justin takes a slightly different line, but who's to say? Justin's leading.
That's true. Now, look at this. This is David Salons, I believe, who'd caught up behind Dino Morelli, running wide, and Salons still running in 8th place behind Morelli, but that will have dropped him away just a little bit. His teammate, as we mentioned before, Andrea Piccini, is up into 6th place.
The biggest problem with that as well is you can see the dust there just going on to Salons' tyres now. I mean, the problem with this circuit is because it is such low grip, that will now probably take about 2 or 3 laps for the tyres to clean up again so that he can get back on the pace. So that's not only going to cost time there, but in the next couple of laps as well.
You can see that from the camera. He went right over the curb cam that time. They're not supposed to do that if they're online. They're supposed to go just past it. But a great view of the underbody of his car. And in fact, look, there you are. Exactly. That's the next corner.
Yeah.
And exactly what you said there, because the grip is reduced by the dust. Oh, what's happened here? Linders, is he? No, it's still, I think it's Wilson. We didn't see Wilson go through the shot there. So Linders still in 2nd place. But as I say, that was a good example of Salons picking up the dirt on his tyres and having no grip at the next corner. 27 laps completed then, and gradually counting down. 35 lap total here in Austria. Slightly shorter races this year than they have been in recent times, and Wilson will be glad for that because he's working hard here. The concentration has to be so intense leading a race at this level. The tiniest slip will see Linders and perhaps even Enger through ahead of him.
Yeah, when it's basically that close, and then you know, he can't afford to make any mistakes. Linders is there ready to pounce if Justin runs wide or locks a brake or anything like that. So basically now he's just going to be really concentrating on just getting clean laps, making sure he gets a clean exit from the corners, just minimising the chances for Linders to get alongside him.
Great stuff. There is Pizzonia's pit board. 7 laps to go. He's in P4, position 4 at the moment. And there we are, a bit of a look at Antonio. We haven't seen a lot of him because he's been a bit on his own throughout the race so far. The 20-year-old from Amazon country in Brazil, the reigning British F3 champion, as we mentioned, and in his debut season of Formula 3000 has really been the top rookie this year on a consistent basis. Wilson gets a little bit crossed up there on the exit of Remus. I don't think that's too much of a problem. Let's watch them as they come up the hill while he's still in front of Linders. Back to Pizzonia for a second. He's had a 9th place finish in Brazil, although he could well have won that one if it hadn't been for passing Jamie Mello under yellow flag. Then Pizzonia had a 4th place finish at San Marino. He was 6th in Barcelona, and at the moment looks as though he could well be heading for another 4th place finish here in Austria. So it's been a good start to the season, no doubt about that, for Antonio Pizzonia. Now let's take a look at what was going on here. Giorgio Pantano, who's a couple of laps down after that first corner accident in the number 6 car there, just getting a bit crossed up as he was trying to get past the number 29 car of Gabriele Lancieri. Quite a late lunge down the inside. Don't think Lancieri really knew he was there. They managed to survive it, and Pantano's been putting in some quick laps, but he's got no chance of getting into the points. Yes, he's some 3 laps down on the leaders and lapping at about the same pace as the leaders, but it's not going to be enough to close up the gap. There are our leaders again. It looks like Enger's a bit more on the attack this time, the car in 3rd place. A little closer to Bas Linders. He might try and make a lunge, but remember, Thomas Enger, 2nd in the championship by just 1 point to Wilson, cannot afford to do anything too risky here. Still a long way to go in this championship.
That's right, you know, I mean, each circuit you go to, it's incredibly difficult just to score points in Formula 3000, so, you know, he's not really going to be prepared to risk a 3rd place. If it's an easy 2nd place or an easy win when he can make a move on them, then he'll go for it, but, you know, at the moment in time, he's just waiting to see what opportunities arise.
Pantano's got... Oh, and off goes... that's the number 12 car of Verano, Gabriele Verano, and he was pressured a little bit by Pantano, and that's how not to do a spin turn. Comes right round again the other way. Verano was running in 12th place. Now, Pantano's not actually a threat to him. He should have just let him past because Pantano's a couple of laps down, but he got a bit carried away. Pantano was sort of showing his nose in the mirror to say, I'm here, and I think Verano just went in a little bit too quick. The back end stepped out. He wasn't even heading towards the outside curve, was he?
No, that was a very strange one. It just looked like the back of the car got a little bit light and just went into an easy spin.
Well, this is how he got it wrong on trying to get it going again. Bit too much right foot there, spinning it round almost to face the wrong way again, and finally getting it under control. Get your hand sorted out, and off he goes. Another look at this. It was a little bit sideways from Maslov ahead of him, but Verano just lost it completely and on his own. Now, Leinders coming under more pressure from Thomas Enger, but it's still Justin Wilson who leads. Up over the hill they come, down towards the Gosse curve, and Thomas Eng just filling the mirrors this time of Bas Leinders. Leinders with that slightly earlier line in, can protect it and still be quick through there.
Yeah, it's actually making it life a lot easier for Justin Wilson, I think, having Enger there, basically putting pressure onto Leinders, because it's taking a little bit of the challenge away to Justin Wilson, so it's helping him just make a little bit of a gap.
Yes, in some ways the two Nordic teammates are working together, more by the way it's turned out than any decision to do that. And of course Nordic Racing already leading the points battle in the team standings this year, and they are putting together a tremendous season. This is Derek and Chris Mower's team. I have to say, Jamie, they really are doing the business this year, aren't they?
Yeah, it's really nice to see, actually. You know, Derek and Chris are great guys, and you know, I'm very pleased for them that you know, the cars are at the front. You know, they've struggled along in the past trying to secure the lucrative budgets to run the cars, and you know, here they are. They've got Coca-Cola back in the car now, and they're having a great year.
They are, and once again, it's the British teams. It's been Supernova and Petrobras in recent years, but now it's another British team that's showing them how to do it. Nordic Racing team. We've got the Belgian team in the middle there. That's KTR, run by former racer Kurt Mollekens, and they're having a fairly good last couple of races, I have to say, getting up amongst the front runners. But so far, it's the Nordic Racing team which is dominating the team standings. Just a little way to go, just under 4 laps to go here at the A1 ring. Justin Wilson has held them off virtually from the start of this race. There was a big first corner pile-up when our front row men, Sebastian Bourdais and Patrick Friesacker, made contact, and then other cars all going off all over the place, basically, including some of the favourites like Mark Webber, Darren Manning and Mario Haberfeld, who qualified lower down, but he was another one that went flying through the air at the first corner. Justin Wilson stayed out of trouble, and Bas Leinders stayed out of trouble. It was Leinders who had the lead initially, and as the safety car came back into the pits, Leinders led, but Wilson was able to find a way past, get into the lead, pulled away initially, and then since then that lead has gradually been eroded, and since then he's been watching his mirrors as Leinders and Thomas Enger have both looked for an opportunity. Just under 3 laps to go, and Wilson holding on, looking for his second victory this year.
It's going to be close, I think, but I think that Justin's got it in the bag. You know, he's looked comfortable over the race. I mean, you know, he's held the position. He's made a slight gap now to Leinders, so again, as long as he can just keep it smooth and keep himself from making any mistakes, I think that it's going to be very difficult for Leinders to get by. And
as you say, Thomas Enger pushing Leinders again, that's giving Justin perhaps just a little bit of respite, as Enger wants to move up into second place. Again, that slightly earlier turn-in from Leinders, slightly tighter line into the corner. And the two Nordic cars both go in a little wider there. Perhaps that suits the setup that they've got on the car. Pitsonia keeping watching brief in 4th place, bit lonely in the yellow and green car, but still, as was mentioned earlier, top rookie in this race. Top man enjoying his first season of 3000, and I don't think it'll be long before the F1 teams are taking note of what Pitsonia is doing this year. There have been mentions that perhaps Jaguar might be interested in Justin Wilson. I don't think we've heard that from the team itself. It's more other people conjecturing, but you never know. Wilson is leading the championship and looking to try and take another victory here today with just a couple of laps to go. Wilson looking in his mirrors as they get closer and closer.
As they're coming through the Jochen Rindt corner just a minute ago, you could see that Bas looks very strong through the last 3 quick corners up into the Jochen Rindt corner, and then the last A1 curve corner coming onto the pit straight, Justin just seems to be able to pull out a little bit more of a gap again. So,
and that's the crucial one in many ways, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, that's obviously where you need to be quick, so that's in favour of Justin at the moment.
Look at Pitsonia, he's caught up a bit there, and that was under braking, admittedly, for Remus, where they tend to concertina together, but he's put together quite a few good laps. The last lap was a 24.664 for Pitsonia. That's one of the fastest laps we've seen in this race, so he is doing a good job. He is catching the leaders slightly. Not enough, I think, to really do anything before the end of this race, with about 1.5 laps to go now. Wilson, will he withstand the pressure? The man who won the 1999 Formula Palmer and 98 Formula Palmer Audi Championship, now in his 3rd season of the Formula 3000 series. Last year finished 5th overall in the championship with a best finish of 2nd here at the A1 ring last year. So Justin likes this place, had a great run from 11th on the grid to finish 2nd last season. Now can he take the 2nd victory of the year, having won the season opener at Brazil? Now in Brazil, perhaps he was a bit fortunate, 1 or 2 cars got into trouble with yellows. This time he's led from the front pretty much. Okay, a couple went off at the first corner, but Justin was right there to take advantage. Just 1 lap to go. He's got to hold on now. The critical corner is coming up at the end of this straight. This is where really Leinders has to make a move, if anywhere. He picks up the slipstream. Is he going to be close enough? He's not as close as he has been a couple of times. And as they get onto the brakes, Leinders is too far back to get alongside. Unless he does something really risky now, it looks as though Wilson is going to take the win. Up the hill they climb towards the Gusser curve. Thomas Enger in 3rd place. He's still looking for that little opportunity to sneak past the Belgian. But at the moment, it's Wilson with the advantage. Leinders just gets a little bit out of shape under braking there. No major problem for him. He sorts it out. Now they accelerate down the hill towards the left-hander at Niki Lauda curve. Good smooth entry from Justin Wilson. Leinders follows, Enger follows in 3rd. Just behind them, Antonio Pizzonia in 4th place. He has caught up to them, but not by enough. And in fact, Jamie Mellows just put in a quick lap as well on that last one. But it looks to me as though Justin Wilson has done enough. He's got 2 more corners to negotiate here to take the 2nd win of the season and extend his championship lead. Enger gets a bit sideways. Wilson out of the final corner. Yes, it's clean. This should be it for Justin Wilson all the way. He does it. He takes the victory in Austria. Fantastic drive under pressure throughout this race for Justin Wilson. Bas Leinders did well, but he just could not quite hold it in front. He got in front a couple of times, but he couldn't stay there. He finishes 2nd. Thomas Enger takes 3rd position. Antonio Pizzonia is 4th. This man, Jamie Mello, finishes 5th. And Andrea Piccini finishes in 6th position. Well, Jamie, I have to say, a good drive that from Justin. He did everything required of him.
Well, that's a great job from Justin there, you know. He's coped under the pressure, not made any mistakes, really, what we could see on the pictures. And, you know, it's a great win for him and also for the Nordic team.
Well, indeed, I think they will be delighted with that. Nordic Racing, 1st and 3rd. You know, last time out they had the 1st and 3rd the other way round when Thomas Enger won. They've done it again here, and just 1 place off, scoring a maximum point score for the team. They really have got their act together, and it's funny, isn't it, when you get these teams, we've seen it with Supernova and with Petrobras in the past, 2 good drivers, they get on a roll, and it seems like no one can stop them.
Yeah, I think once you get a good setup on the car, you know, you have a good base setup which you can work with, and you have some good engineers in the team. If you can get 2 guys now, driver-wise, who can get along with each other as well and bounce information off of each other, then you have a very good, strong package.
Yes, I'm sure that has helped them this year. It seems to be a good relationship in the team between Justin and Thomas, both highly competitive, but they appear to be working together, and that is absolutely crucial at this level. Delighted Justin Wilson there, the tall man of single-seater racing. He's just about the tallest single-seater racer I've ever met, but he really is a nice bloke as well.
Derek Murrow there on the left, waving his arms up in the air just a minute ago. He's obviously happy with that one.
He is, and every right to be. I have to say, the team has done an outstanding job so far this year, and you know that's 1/3 distance now completed in this championship, and it couldn't have started much better for them. It will give Justin, he had a 1-point lead before this race. He's got 10 points to add to his tally, so he'll now have some 25 points and opened his advantage up to 7 points over Thomas Enger, so that's a very healthy advantage to have at this stage in the championship. He'll be on 25. Thomas Enger will be on 18 points, and Mark Webber, of course, didn't score at all today, so he's actually been passed by Bas Leinders. Leinders with 2 good results in the last 2 races, 2 second places. Suddenly now he's 3rd in the championship. Mark Webber, the pre-season favourite, has been pushed back down into 4th place, and as we look on down the list, not many of them were able to score points here today. David Salons was just still outside the points, he was 9th. Morelli, I'm afraid, didn't quite manage to score a point. Dino Morelli did finish 7th today. Good comeback for him, and I'm sure that getting a race distance under his belt will help him as he goes off to the next race. Next race will be the race at Monaco. Now, that's a race you know well, Jamie. Finished second there last year, didn't you, when you stood in for Mario Haberfeld. Who would you say, having seen what's been going on so far this season, who would you say of these guys, particularly, see Justin Wilson, there you are, you can see how much taller he is than anyone else. Who would you say is going to be favourite at Monaco?
I can see that the Nordic team are going to be strong, I think, around Monaco. They seem to have quite a good car, obviously, all season so far this year. You know, the car's working well, so I can see no reason why they won't be quick around that Monaco. And obviously the normal favourites, Supernova and the Petrobras team, are going to be back at the front again. We'll see how they go.
Let's just check through the results here. You can see our top six: Wilson, Leinders, Enger, Pizzonia and Mello, and Piccini. Morelli just outside that, then Rodrigo Sparafico, David Salons and Nicolas Filiberti. And of course we didn't get that many finishers in the end because of that first corner pile-up, did we?
Yeah, I mean that's obviously taken a few of the front runners out of the field and made it it's still a very, very interesting race, but you know, it's some possibly different people at the front. You know, we'll just see what happens now when they go to Monaco.
Well, a tremendous performance today from Justin Wilson to open up his championship advantage, and he'll certainly be looking forward to the next round of the series in Monaco. Look at the cars still being picked up from that first corner accident. Another look at this. We saw several looks earlier, Jamie, but, well, what can you say? It just all went wrong, didn't it?
Yeah, you can see Sebastian Bourdais there at the front on the right as he just suddenly jinks over now and squeezes
Friesacker,
yeah, into the first corner, and then he's obviously under the dirt, loses the rear, and then that causes a chain reaction down the field.
Yeah, cars off all over the place there, and including the likes of Mark Webber and Darren Manning. Actually, that is Darren Manning, I think, right in the bottom of the picture, the red and white car there.
That's right, yeah.
And that was where Darren got taken out of it, so that effectively ended any chances he had. Actually, Manning hadn't made a bad start. He was 11th on the grid. You can see him going past the slower car in the middle of the shot there. And up front, it's the top two who get together, but then there's another incident further behind them, and then Manning was on the outside of that, and he got hit into the air and off into the gravel trap. No chance of recovering from there, I'm afraid.
He's had absolutely nowhere to go from there, and when you just watch him going into the corner, the other two in front go sideways and basically just push them straight off into the gravel.
So we lost Webber, we lost Manning, we lost the two front row men, we lost a lot of potential race winners here. Manning finished third here last season. Let's just take another look. Up come the front two, they hit each other, and then there's a chain reaction behind them. And then Garcia gets spun out. There goes Manning. There goes Haberfeld. I think Haberfeld probably got the most points for the flight, didn't he?
He definitely got the most height.
The biggest air for Mario Haberfeld. He's had a horrible weekend. Didn't get out first part of qualifying and qualified 13th. And then the race ends at the first corner. Well, there's nothing much more frustrating than that when you've all travelled halfway across Europe. The team's put in a huge amount of effort. And there you go. Thomas Enger, of course, also lost out there because he had made a good start initially.